Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us tonight for our very first E for Women webinar of 2021, E for Women in Business. Our focus today will be to provide you with personal insight from established business owners and leaders on how you can take the next steps in your very own journey. When you leave here tonight, we hope that you are inspired to take action as an entrepreneur, to take the leap and push through the many obstacles that you might encounter. My name is Jasmine Nauta, one of your webinar hosts and digital marketing assistant here at Asian Culture Media Alliance. Tonight, I will be co-hosting with Isabel Wang.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabel Wong and I'm a digital marketing intern here with ACMA. Asian Culture Media Alliance is a nonprofit organization headquartered in Southern California, founded to create a voice of awareness and empowerment for the Asian Pacific Islander community. ACMA hosts various programs including the Take One Media Internship, the Asian Voices television show, and Asian Pacific Community Connection. Take One is a biannual vocational training program for young adults to gain hands-on experience in film and production. An award-winning program produced by ACMA, Asian Voices is the only cable television show that highlights Asian Pacific Islander community leaders and organizations in Southern California and is currently in production of its 4th season. Finally, ACMA hosts an online business directory made specifically for Asian and Pacific Islander-owned businesses in Southern California called Asian Pacific Community Connection. If you'd be interested in listing your business or practice on the APCC, go ahead and get your business covered. So now, just to give you all an idea of what we'll be doing today. First, we will have questions prepared for the individual panelists focusing on their own personal journeys. Each question is tailored to highlight the experience of each individual. Then we will have questions for all of the panelists to share their personal answers to. And finally, we'll have our Q&A session where viewers can submit their questions in the Q&A submission box at the bottom of the screen. Please hold your questions until the Q&A session. We will not answer any of these submissions until then. And without any more delay, Ms. Cathlyn Choi will now take over and introduce us to our amazing panelists.
Thank you, Isabel. Actually, before we get to our panelists, I forgot to get to Ms. Choi. Today, Ms. Cathlyn Choi, Executive Director of ACMA, will join us as our discussion moderator. In addition to 11 years of nonprofit experience, Ms. Cathlyn Choi has over 28 years of background as a business development and marketing executive in the wireless, food and beverage, and media industry sectors in Korea and the US. Ms. Choi is best known for her TV show Cathlyn's Korean Kitchen on PBS, the first Korean cooking show produced in English in the US. She is the main host and producer of Asian Voices and is a co-owner of Karma Media Productions, specializing in producing content for television and film. You can access her full bio in detail on the ACMA website and on LinkedIn. Ms. Choi, it's yours now.
Okay, thank you so much, Jasmine and Isabel. Hello and welcome everybody to E for Women in Business. As Jasmine had mentioned earlier, today's webinar is designed to bring together entrepreneurs, small business owners, and business professionals in industries to share their success stories, learn about their business, and get insights on how to identify and develop the right kind of business for you, or maybe even help you bring your existing business to the next level. So I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to moderate today's panel discussions as I have 3 amazing ladies joining us from 3 different locations: San Diego, Hawaii, and Los Angeles. So let's start off with introducing our first panelist, who is Cat Mai. She's based in San Diego with 10 years plus of years of experience in design, and she specializes in brand identity. So she's built brands for several businesses, many businesses involving beauty products, health, wellness, and as you can see, the whole bio here for a lot of big brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And then I'm not sure if I should introduce all the panelists first with the bios or.
Yeah, that's okay. Hi, I'm Kat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next panelists, we have Mylan Yamamoto, CEO of Cropsticks. Wow. And she was featured on season 8 of Shark Tank. So if you are a fan of the show and following the program, I'm sure you'd have already seen her on the show. So we're very happy to have her here to share her story of how she got started with a business, since she, her products are sustainable, chopstick innovation that is currently used in hundreds of restaurants, hotels, and retailers worldwide. Welcome, Mylan.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
And next up, we have Sasha Suresh. She's the CEO of Jolie Cosmetics. Wow, what a great name. I feel Jolie already. But previously, of course, she has worked in a PR marketing and real estate business before starting her new venture. And she's also lived and traveled overseas, resided in New York and India, Thailand, and now in Los Angeles. So we're excited to have her with us today. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, so without further ado, let's start with Kat Mai. Welcome again, Kat.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Branding, as you know, that's your business, is so important since it represents like one, company's identity, image, or individual artists, celebrities, everybody, right?
Yeah.
So when I first learned about your business, I love the name, and then I could tell a lot from the business name, right? That your cat would be the name of the founder, for example. So, but as far as Cat My Design goes, the name, right? Associating that with the business. I know when I first heard about it, website and logo designs came to my mind at first, but it's more than just that, correct?
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Yeah, so branding is interesting because sometimes it's hard for people to pinpoint. You have what I do is brand identity design, which is just applying a brand visually to the design of a company. But what a brand really is, it's more about like a feeling or an automatic association that people have with a certain company or industry or anything like that. And so that's really what we focus on with the marketing is figuring out like what are those associations that you want to build in people's minds as you're marketing so that it closes the gap between your marketing, them being a cold audience, and then them actually purchasing and investing in you. So that's really what branding is about. And it all has to do with like feelings. I like to talk about feelings because that's really what it is. It's just connecting to your audience, making them like you, making them trust you, showing up where they need to be or where you need to be. So yeah, it's a lot more than just the look.
Exactly. You mentioned a few very important elements, the connecting with the audience, target audience, the consumers, and also the association, right? And those are some of the very important elements, and especially in brand marketing. And so, because a lot of people just don't really know what brand marketing actually means either, right? So we can talk about that in detail a little later.
Yeah.
So speaking of branding, now let's move on to Mylan, your brand of crop sticks. When you hear of crop sticks, of course, sticks and then crop. So you kind of associate that somehow with chopsticks in a way, but not everybody would probably think of that. So tell me about crop sticks. What was your inspiration behind that?
Sure. As far as the name goes, I have to give credit to my husband. He's the one that came up with the name crop sticks one day. And really it goes down to, yes, chopsticks, but the word crop, because we make our products from bamboo. Bamboo is a fast growing grass, and you cut down bamboo, it grows right back. 45% of chopsticks are still made from trees. That's 20 million trees that are chopped down every single year for a product we throw away. So we wanted to not only make this cool chopstick with the built-in rest, but make it sustainable. So crop sticks was our first product into market. Everything from the materials to making it out of recycled paper, a lot of thought went into it. And we took it one step further where we decided that, okay, if we think this is good, but does the rest of the world think what we're doing is environmentally friendly? There's a lot of greenwashing out there, right? Like you can have amazing marketing, but if your actions don't follow through, then there's a huge disconnect, and consumers are getting a lot smarter with that. So we applied for our B Corp. B Corp is a third-party certification for social environmental responsibility. If you walk into a Whole Foods, you can see different brands have that B on it. Patagonia is one of them, Ben and Jerry's. So the first year we applied, we didn't get it. It's a long, rigorous process. They comb through everything. So that gave us a year to really get our business more up to speed of what the standards were, put a lot of work, a lot of time. And then finally in 2019, we got our B Corp certification. And we're one of about 3,500 in the world that has it. So anybody that's listening, please, if you care, like social impact, that's a huge buzzword right now. If you're thinking about starting a business, creating a great brand, but also what's your mission behind it? So we're a little chopstick, but there's a lot that goes behind into it.
Oh yeah, little chopsticks with a giant mission. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story and some of the tips that you shared. It just takes a little while to start something really innovative, right? When it comes to business, you need persistence and you need a lot of patience. I know, and a lot of time goes into it. So congratulations on your business.
Thank you.
Right. And then next, Sasha, you traveled in different countries, traveled and lived in Asia and Europe. Did you go to Europe too?
No, New York.
Sorry, New York. Sorry
Yes.
about that. And so tell us about your journey of how you ended up in Los Angeles, or maybe starting in New York and then Los Angeles, and your company, Jolie Cosmetics.
Yes.
So when did you first come up with the idea, and how did you transition your career from being a real estate agent to, business owner with cosmetics?
So New York happened because I went to New York for school. But little did I know that I would fall so in love with the city that I wouldn't want to leave. 3 years of school turned to 13 years of me living in New York. But having said that, I think when I first came to New York, I had a mindset that I wanted to work a corporate job. And I went to one of the top business schools in New York. I went to Baruch. And halfway through my program, I realized that it wasn't for me. I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, having something that was my own, but I couldn't see myself going into the corporate world and working for someone. And that led me to being so confused about what I wanted to do and so lost that for the longest time I could not figure out what I wanted to do. So I held so many internships in different industries. I jumped around a lot, and that kind of broke me in a certain way, because here I was in one of the best cities in the world that everyone, kills to be in, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I tried PR and marketing. I thought I would love it, but I didn't. I didn't enjoy the B2B aspect of that. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do real estate just so I could pay my bills till I figure out what I want to do. I want to have something that's my own, but what is it? And I found myself getting bored of everything. Like something would hold my interest for a short period of time, and then I'd be like, okay, no, this is not for me. And the constant in my life was beauty. I was just so inspired and curious about the beauty industry that I told myself that that's probably what I should be doing. But I was in New York as an international student, and I couldn't imagine someone taking a chance on me and offering me a job where I could actually make a difference and use my creative juices, So I had to make a decision of what I wanted to do at some point. And I think it's just one day I woke up and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a brand that's different, because I didn't want to bring to the table what was already there. I didn't feel like the industry needed any more brands, but I wanted to bring something new to the table in my own way, even if it's small, because I am a small brand. I'm an indie brand, but I wanted to bring something different to the table. It was in the hopes of improving what was already there. And also I noticed that the indie brands that were on the market back then, and most of them that are on the market right now, they're mostly based out of LA, and they're made in the same 2 or 3 labs that every other brand uses. And I knew I wanted to set myself apart. And a lot of people don't know or don't understand that the FDA claims to be very strict on the ingredient list that goes into making the products, but the FDA bans only 11 ingredients versus the EU bans about 1,300 ingredients. So I knew I wanted to, pivot into that and get something that's different to the indie beauty market. And I decided to get all my products made in Italy. So that was a start for me. And then I realized it was just so much more than cosmetics itself. Like I just enjoyed the whole process of building a brand. Like Kat said, it's just so much more than just what it looks like. So much work goes behind the scenes. And I think that's where Jolie was born.
Wow, what a story. And I mean, I'm sure that there were moments where you thought, wow, can I do this? Because as we all know, as women, there are a lot of cosmetic brands out there, and it's a very competitive industry. Yes, and of course, the brand's important, but then you have to think about the cost and the quality. So you chose to go with an indie brand, but then not compromising the quality of your
Right. Yes.
brands. So how has it been so far with the decision that you make to have your cosmetics being developed in Italy because of the high cost, correct?
I don't regret it at all because even till this day, I have customers who were the first time buyers 5 years ago. Next month is going to be 5 years since I launched, and I am still bootstrapped. And I think that is my strength because I think it's really hard to maintain yourself in an oversaturated market, staying bootstrapped. So I feel like I took this giant leap of faith, and I'm here. So I feel like I did make the right decision. I'm not really sure how, like, I don't see myself being like the next Benefit Cosmetics or any of the big brands. I don't see myself as that, and I don't intend to be that brand either. When I set out to do this, I knew I was going to be different. Like I said, even if it was on a smaller scale, my goal is just to be different.
That's a very important point that you brought up, differentiating your brand. And it's not might not be for everybody, but there are certainly your audience, your target audience out there who fit into what you're providing, right? So, what about you, Kat? I know there are a lot of web development, design companies out there, brand marketing, and so it can be considered a very competitive business out there, but you have been able to establish accounts with a lot of big companies, right, as your clients. So tell us about the moment when you first started it, and were there any challenges, and how were you able to really come to where you are today?
Yeah. So I think my challenges when I first started is similar to most people. It's just kind of like when you're switching from the 9 to 5 to the full-time branding or full-time employment, it's always such a scary leap. And so I think, and then at the time I was also like, I'm a single mom, I had a young child, so there was a lot to juggle. But I think it was just that same thing was the whole idea of wanting more and wanting freedom with my time. And then also the work doing, when you work for a boss, it's not the same as when you're working for yourself, and you don't get that freedom to explore and do what you're really good at. But for me, the way that it took off was that I was just doing work, and I got lined up. Like I just, it was a very like synchronicity kind of like, I always mispronounce that word, but it just, I lined up with the right people, and then it was word of mouth, and then like it was networking. And you'd be surprised. I think when you think of in terms of like big brands and like, stores or brands that are in all stores and all over the country or whatever, you think like, oh, that's so intimidating. But really what it comes down to is just like relationships and connection and doing good work with good people. And then that spreads on its own. And so, that really helped take things off for me so that I was able to focus on this full time. And for graphic design specifically, there's a lot of designers out there, but the reason why I specialized on branding was because I realized that, it's not just, I saw a lot of owners focusing on like one logo design or one offshoot design. And really that doesn't help you. You have to think of the collective picture and the strategy and all of that. And that's why I'm so passionate now talking to small business owners about this, about thinking in terms of the bigger picture and like how you're creating connections. And like, just like what Mylan and Sasha both said, it's about, there's nothing wrong with that kind of grassroots kind of vibe and really being true to the mission and core and the value of what you put out there, and then branding the visuals in that way and showing up in your marketing in that way and being personal, I think is really valuable. I hope that answered the question. Kind of.
Yeah, you did. Well, thanks for that. And
Yeah.
you mentioned a lot of things that are very important. And also, I tell all our interns and everybody I meet whenever I go to a workshop, speaking a workshop or a panel discussion, the resources, you know, knowing somebody and then having the connection and networking and through referrals. That's so important than cold calling or applying for a job somewhere without any connections, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not so much because I don't really think of competition as a serious thing. You look at competitors in terms of seeing your standing in the marketplace and seeing what they're doing. And there's a certain amount of psychology to it, just making sure that visually you're looking the way you do. But I think that, you know, when you are true to kind of your essence or what you have to offer, your speciality, your personality, it kind of rules out the competition. Because people want, like, if you're a service, they want to work with you directly for that reason, which is what's happened with me, thankfully. And then you can correlate that to product too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. It's all about who you know. That's why I tell everybody.
Yeah, it
And
is.
timing too.
Yeah, it turns out we're social people. That's why everything is social media.
All right. So going back to what Sasha was saying about starting a business and bootstrapping. Everybody does that, especially when you first start a business. Mylan, what was it like for you when you first started? I mean, did you have the right investment, I mean, capital ready, working capital for you to start your business? I know you talked about certifications earlier that cost money as well and time. So tell us about your experience with that.
Did I have capital? No. Did I know what I was doing? No. I had an idea, right? And I had to turn that idea into reality, get it patented, get the tooling for it. And I had none of that experience because my experience prior to that was teaching. I was a professor at Loyola Marymount and teaching communication and entrepreneurship. I also had a business, and it's still running to this day. It's a talent management company where we take influencers with millions of followers. Some of you might be familiar with them, like the Fung Bros and Stephen Lim from BuzzFeed, Richie Lee, and we pair them with brands. So Kat and Sasha, I want to talk to you later on that side of things. And actually, Sasha, were you an Ipsy? I think I've tried your products through.
Yes,
Yes, I love your stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
and I got to experiment with it, so it's good stuff. I found it through Ipsy.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's great.
Which Michelle Fanstar helped to start. Then it got, then she sold it. I think it was like for 70 million. Anyway, so here I was, a talent manager and a professor with an idea to make a chopstick with a built-in rest. And luckily, my colleagues at LMU were like, anybody I would talk to, and my students helped me with the market research side of things. I had my students go out into the field and get extra credit for filling out all these surveys. And I did the same thing. So I had about 250 surveys, and the consensus was that yes, we would buy this. We would, this is a cool invention. And if the surveys came out negative, I would not have brought that to life. So okay, I had a viable idea. And then the next step, right, is the capital. So I launched it off of Kickstarter, and thankfully through those relationships, and like Kat was saying, it's all about relationships, right? So the Fung Bros, David Choi, Kristen from Wong Fu, Richie, Linda, D Productions, they all had millions of followers. And I got lucky because they pushed out our Kickstarter to their communities, and my community in Hawaii were super supportive, my family and friends. And we got to raise 21,000 off of the Kickstarter, and that paid for our initial patent. It got us the capital, it got us notoriety, And that snowballed into more investors wanting to come on board. It got us our first angel investor as well, because now there was traction, right? So, and then in 2015, it was 2015, I left my full-time teaching with all the benefits and salary and benefits, and I did Chopsticks full-time, never looked back.
Wow, that was such a amazing venture for you, I'm sure, and lots of ups and downs along the way. But again, you did it, and it's again, like Kat was saying, it's all about who you know, the connections, people like who believe in your mission. They will support you. So now I have you on my list. Maybe if
And
I do
you're
any
on mine.
connection, exactly. That's what it's all about, networking, right? And helping each other. We women supporting one another, right? Yeah. Because we've once been there, when we first started to where we're at right now. But I mean, just one more question on that. When you talked about the angel investors, what about when did you know, get approach Shark Tank? I mean, you were featured on the show, and then who gave you the idea, or did you really, is that something for marketing purposes, or?
No, I needed the money. I went on Shark Tank thinking that was a way to get the money, not knowing that like 12,000 people apply to this thing and only like a small percentage gets a slot. And this is where luck comes into play, because I was at a conference, I had my crop sticks in my badge, and the casting folks were there, and they pointed out to my badge and they're like, "What's that?" Because I was just lurking in the back and like kind of peeking into the casting booth. And I met one of the casting directors. She made me fill out some paperwork, and anyone that wants to do Shark Tank, that's like the first step of so much paperwork, and more paperwork and more videos and auditioning. Finally, I think it was like total a 9-month process. We found, my husband and I made him do the show with me. And we had to cut our honeymoon short because we got a call from the producers saying like, hey, we're going to slot you in. And that's another thing. Like you basically have 2 weeks to prepare your full pitch when the producers call you. And we stopped our honeymoon because we just got married a few days before that. And then, went to the Sony lot and did our pitch in front of Mark Cuban. It was Mark Cuban, David John, Lori Grenier, Mr. Wonderful, and Robert. That was incredible. It was insane. Season 8, episode 20 for anyone that's interested.
I haven't seen that program. It's not particularly your segment, but I'm definitely going to watch that. So, well, maybe I shouldn't ask a question. I was going to ask like, well, so yeah, who was the one? Did anybody invest? And if so, who invested from Shark Tank?
I'm happy to share this story that anybody that's watching or that's interested. So we did not get an investment. And I went into the room standing on the carpet, really, really wanting that investment, right? Because we needed the capital to bring Crop Six to life. And I was devastated when everyone, like Mark Cuban, I remember his words were, "This feels like a classroom project still," because I came from teaching. For those reasons, I'm out because I had no customers. I went in there with a flimsy prototype, and we didn't have the actual product yet and 0 customers. So they were all out, and that's okay, because sometimes you don't get, your path doesn't go the way you want. I envisioned so hard and practiced 1,000 times that pitch I wanted Damon to invest in the company, and he was out. But you know what? We still did it anyway. We got investment elsewhere, and we got our first national contract. We had to pivot a little because of the pandemic, because a lot of our customers were airlines, hotels, and restaurants. So now we have our first national account in Cost Plus World Market. So it's 260 retail locations all across the nation. So it's going to be in stores in spring. So I hope Damon John sees it.
You didn't get the investment from them, but you know what? You made it though, right? and you just, you can now say, all right, it's no big deal. I did it. Okay, I didn't need the
Easier to
money.
say now, yeah. But at the
Exactly.
time, yeah.
Mhm. So I know it's not easy when you get rejected and you prepared a lot for, this opportunity. And when that gets turned down, I mean, I'm sure I can't just imagine what went through your mind, and then the discouragement, right? So with that said, how do you? Okay, so let me ask everybody, starting from my end, and then um, Kat and Sasha can chime in. So I'm sure as business owners, entrepreneurs, when you first start out your business, even before this current business, there were times when somebody would, put you down, say, oh, that idea is not a good idea, or turn down a business, or get rejected for a proposal. How do you overcome that, Mylan?
I have this rule with my husband and I, whenever we encounter failure or, something doesn't go our way, we let ourselves process it, right? Because you have to just understand the emotions. You have to allow yourself to feel that. Um, I after Shark Tank, we went to the trailer and I I was crying and I was like, man, and I was like, man, 6 million people are going to see that, but it's okay. Look, thankfully, it was a very positive rejection, but it was still a rejection. So anyway, I let myself and my husband, we're like, okay, 30 minutes. Let's let ourselves feel this because we still got to push forward. We have a mission. I think anyone that has a business, having a mission and knowing your why, that's going to get you through those hard times. So 30 minutes, process it, and move on. That's how I deal with it.
It's easier said than done for most people, right? Just say, okay, 30 minutes like you did, and then move on. I think it's also important that you have a partner, your husband, and you're doing this together. It's better than doing it by yourself, right? So I'm glad he was there with you, and I really applaud you for everything that you've accomplished so far. And so, what about you, Kat? I'm sure you have had those moments as well, right? And so, when those moments come to you and you got rejected, or somebody doesn't like your idea and then kind of discourage you, how do you process it and overcome that?
Probably very similar to Mylan, but a lot of the ones that are really distinct in my mind were really early on before I was in business. I actually had a creative director I was working under who told me that design wasn't for me. And it just floored me. I just felt so terrible. And I always kind of remember that because I realize now that it's because his interpretation of what good design is different than what it is for somebody else, right? And there's different designers for different needs, and also I was very new to the industry. And so I think for me it is the same thing where it's like taking a moment to let myself process the feelings that I'm having, not trying to avoid it or push it away because sometimes it just prolongs it, and just kind of allowing it to be what it is, and then trying to see if I can look at it more subjectively. And especially with design, I never really take it, it's so like it doesn't really happen in that way anymore. It's more like, okay, let's talk about, what are we working on? Maybe there's revision, something like that. And so it's very like you're just working with this material kind of in a sense. But yeah, I think for me, it's just looking at it more of like from like an outsider and seeing like what might really be going on here instead of taking it personal. Because sometimes it just doesn't work out, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to work out with somebody else. So.
Right. I think it's in business, it's really important. Maybe we have to go through various exercises in various stages, but keeping things separate, business and personal, right? When it comes to business, you can't let your personal emotions get in the way, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to just get up and then, just move forward. And it comes, I don't know, with experience, I guess, over the years. So that's a very important thing that you brought up, both with
Yeah.
Mylan and Kat. And what
You
about
totally
you?
get like
Yeah.
sorry, I was just gonna say,
No,
you
no,
totally develop a thick skin.
thick skin, exactly. But what about you, Sasha?
Right, like Kat said, I think I've been through so many rejections in the last 5 years that I have definitely grown a thick skin. But I do take time to process it. And I think the way I look at it is that there's a reason why it didn't work out. And I think it's because there's something better out there for me. And like Mylin and Kat said, I try not to take it personally, but sometimes it is really hard. It is easier said than done. I feel like there is some, I don't know, maybe like a certain project that, you really wanted to work on and it doesn't work out. I feel like at first you do take it personally because you've put in so much work into it and you had all these high expectations. So it's hard not to take it personally, but I do try and, as much as I can to keep them separate. But it's definitely growing a thick skin. I think the more you do it and the more rejections you face, you just learn to do it. It's just a part of the whole process.
Yeah, that's right. And
You're muted, Cathlyn.
we actually, myself included, been rejected, and we got up, and it can go, over and over. But yeah, the thick skin and able to compartmentalize your feelings, right? Like emotions, business, separate business and personal. I think that's a very important thing to, acquire. So with that said, I have one more question before we move on to the Q&A from the audience. So last year has been a very, very interesting, unprecedented, the word used a lot of times, but also a very challenging time for almost everybody, and affected a lot of businesses, especially those that require, like, physical presence in their business environment or in their stores. So with that said, um, let's start with back to Sasha. How has that impacted your business, and what did you do to overcome that? And maybe did you have some other plans or ideas, strategies that you had to implement to continue your business?
To be honest, I think for the first time in my entire 5 years of doing this was when I regretted owning a beauty brand because, of course, being, mid-pandemic, no one's wearing cosmetics. No one needs to wear cosmetics. So the business definitely took a hit in terms of the numbers. I saw it drop drastically, and being a one woman team and trying to finance everything. I would say I didn't see any sales. To be very honest, I didn't see sales for the longest time, like a couple of months. There was barely any sales, and that definitely took a hit on the entire strategy I had laid out for 2020. And I had to make the hard decision of pulling out of production of all the new products that I was going to launch. So for a solo person owning a beauty brand, I would say that it took a big hit. And also in terms of me making the big move from New York to LA, my main purpose of moving here was to network, like how we talked about networking is so important. And I felt like this is the hub for the beauty industry and I have to be in LA. And I moved here, and within 2 months, we had COVID hit us. So I would say that for me personally, I took a hit on my personal life and my professional life. And I couldn't figure out a way to pivot either because, again, bootstrapping and not having any outside investment makes it really hard to pivot sometimes. So I would say that it was probably the toughest year. And I got really lucky towards the end of the year. I ended up signing some big contracts for this year, which helped me jump back up. But in terms of just generally running a business, D2C, I think that it was really hard.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, but but I'm also glad to hear that things are turning around back as of this year, and it's the same for everybody.
Right.
So just we just have to hang in there. And again, I always wanted to build like a support system for women, right? To help each other out in times of need, but also through these kind of webinars, we can be there, and at least support morally, mentally. And then so everybody can actually relate to it. I'm sure all the stories that you shared, and some advice or suggestions or tips, right, as to how we can overcome this, by ourselves and also together. So with that said, Mylan, how about yourself? I mean, I'm sure your business is also affected, but then again, because of some of the big contracts that you have with this major retailers and even the airlines. But tell us, about your experience last year due to the pandemic.
Yeah. So when Sasha was sharing her story, I was really feeling for her, especially knowing that she had her new product lines coming out and she had it all set up for production. I was also super happy to hear that she could take her products out of production, because I mean, imagine having your products there, putting the finances, and then they're like, oh, just it's already on the way. Because actually, that's what happened to us, where we had a big contract. Like 2020 was going to be our year. We had a new product. It's our bamboo fiber straw, and we had a contract lined up. So we decided, okay, we're going to invest all our capital into this product, and we're going to fill up the containers because it's cheaper to ship by containers rather than by LCL. And that's what we did. And product was en route in end of February. And then, of course, as we know, March 19, LA shuts down and our customers start freaking out. So they start pulling their contracts. Now I have this product coming, I have a line of credit on it, and I have no customers. So what does that do for my cash flow? That's a bad situation. So let yourself process it, 30 minutes, look at what's going on in your business situation. And I do remember just during that processing time, and okay, it was probably more than 30 minutes, but like, it's like, wow, what are we going to do? There's never been an issue like this before. And our capital is here and we're the customers. So that's where we decided, okay, we got to pivot, like focus our business away from the B2B model, restaurants and airlines and hotels. That's what was our core. That's our core customer base. So we started thinking, like, how can we, one, keep our business afloat with with a different revenue stream? Grocery stores are doing well, retail's doing well. I'm still getting brand deals for my Click Now Talent clients. Especially back in Q3, that started coming back in. So I really talked to our customers too, like, how can we be helpful to you? Because this pandemic's going to go away, right? The pandemic's going to go away. You still want to keep the customers. So in answering, like, how can we help our customers? How can we make new revenue? We were started to like think of all the different paths of this. And so new revenue line, okay, retail, started focusing on that. We started getting into licensing. So we have, I'm not allowed to say which movies that we partnered in with, but like some movies licensed our chopsticks and put their brand on it. And then we started licensing out that way. And then for our customers, they could, I mean, restaurants, right? Some of our customers went out of business. They're having a hard time paying rent. So it's like, how can we be of service to them? And so that when this is all done, they'll always remember that and be like loyal. So we have a program right now where we're looking at the brands that we have with relationships for my Click Now business and seeing like, okay, which brands are looking to put their logo on all our straws? Because actually the straws were unwrapped, so we have to rewrap the straws. So put the straws with their logo on it and then give it to our customer base for free when they need it. Brand wins, we win because our product gets paid for, and our customers win because they get product to run their business that they need. And that's a new line that we're focusing on in 2020, well, 2021 now, and I'm hoping that's going to be successful. We have some pretty good bites there. So
Wow,
trying to survive.
congratulations. In difficult times when you kind of like really sit down and just, I'm sure everything starts with an idea and thoughts. And when you brainstorm with people around you, I'm sure that you come up with a solution, for for your needs. So I'm
Thank you.
glad you found that. Yeah,
Thank you.
answer.
I also want to mention grants, right? So LA City, they just had a California Relief COVID grant come out. There's also the PPP, the EIDL. A lot of private sector grants are there to help too. So really get ahead of it and just follow the SBA if you're not following them. So you can always be updated on what type of grants are helping businesses, because we were lucky enough to get some of that aid.
Absolutely. Even ACMA and on my own personal business were affected. So last year we did apply for those. But for those of you who are not familiar with those PPP loans and stimulus grants, reach out to us and we have the resources page with links with information on our website as well, on ACMA website. Sorry. So with that said, one quick word from Cathlyn, if you want to share a little bit about if it affected you. If not, then we can start answering the questions that are from our attendees. But you want to say a few words, Kat?
Yeah, I don't know. It affected me for sure because there was no live events. And so a lot of our clients, like we do a few new brand contracts every year, and a lot of those came from events, right? And there are no trade show events. But I think for me, the way that what I took from the past year was that it gave me an opportunity to slow down and think about what's the kind of work that I really love doing? What do I enjoy doing? And I really enjoy working with small businesses. I really enjoy people in the inception kind of period. And then also creating brands that make a difference, right? So I'm loving what I'm hearing from this panel. There's so much heart in it. So that was what I took away from the past year. So if you are someone in business, like how could you maybe not only pivot your business for success, but also more toward a heart-centered place? That sounds kind of cheesy, but it really does resonate with this overall brand story, and it catches in people's hearts, and it really does connect. So that's what happened for me this past year.
Right. Well, I'm really hopeful that things will turn around this year and be a better year for everybody. With that said, I think we have to move on to answering some of the questions from our audience. It's already almost 6:50. We have 3 questions here live. Somebody's asking, would you say starting off in corporate helped to start your own business? And if so, would you recommend going that path, or just starting your own business when you know that's what you want to do? So Sasha, do you want to answer that first? Sasha?
Yes. Okay, I'm just reading the question. Would you say starting off in a corporate helped you? No, I actually don't think any of my work experience in the past helped me or prepared me to launch my brand, or learn the skills that I've been able to learn. I think in fact, to be very honest, I don't think college helped me either. But everybody needs to go to college, get that degree. It's in the Asian culture. But I seriously don't think any of that helped me. I had no prior experience before starting the company. I literally had to teach myself along the way. I had to teach myself every skill that I am capable of today. And also, I think it's very important for anyone setting out to start a brand to learn the skills themselves first, because that's the only way you're able to set the standards for the people you're going to be bringing on board in the future, so that they understand what they need to be doing, because you're just so sure of that's what you want for your company, because your company is your baby. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Mylan or Kat, do you have any advice for this person as to, yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that it didn't help, because all experience helps. I think what it really did was give me a basis of what to compare to and what drives me moving forward. Because along with the why, you also need a hey, I never want to go back to that again kind of feeling. And then also the confidence of knowing that like, hey, look, I did it myself. I don't need to do, if you can work as hard as you do for a boss, you can work that hard for yourself. And then as far as like educational background or any of that, you would be surprised. There's so much you can learn online. There's so many people teaching things. So what I would say is like in every course you could take, they all talk about ICA, ideal client avatar, who you are, what you do, why you do it, all of that kind of stuff. And as long as you get clear on that kind of thing and start building from the ground up, just like Sasha said, you know, you got to be kind of gritty. You got to go out there and just be ready to absorb and learn.
And then for me, I don't really have a corporate background, but I do have, you know, an education background where I was teaching, and the people around me, and even my internship. Okay, I was working at a hotel before interning there. I got lucky where the places that I did land, they became my cheerleaders later on for my business. Even at the internship, we did a deal together for something else, and it kind of comes back to you in that way. And then as far as if anybody's still in school and you are in school, there's our department at LMU was the entrepreneurship center, and there's just so much free money when you're in school, or free resources. So really take advantage of that. I didn't know about it when I was in college. I wish I applied to those pitch competitions. Mostly every college has some type of pitch competition. So if you have an idea, like just go to that pitch competition and you could get $5,000, because the schools have the money and they want to use it to support their students.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. The next question is, what was your experience like? This is directed to Sasha and Mylan, bringing your idea from an idea to prototype to a product. Did you have prior experience, or was that the first time?
Do you want to go first, Mylan?
Oh, you're talking, go ahead.
Okay. So idea, yes, I did not have any prior experience. I did have an idea that I brought to the lab, and most of the people ask me how I found my lab. I did Google them, and I attended a lot of trade shows, beauty focused trade shows. So I could meet labs from all around the world. And I met one that I immediately connected with. I think that's really important. You really need to have a relationship with the person you're working with, because if it's just a one-off transaction, I don't think that can translate, and it shows in the work that you put out there. So I feel like I really connected with the lab that I found, and I was able to tell them exactly what I was looking for, because of course I don't have any background in science. Like, I'm not sure about, the formulations. It's just me putting my idea down on paper, and the chemists at the lab understanding and picking up from what I asked for, and then we just kind of build from there. So let's say they formulate the product, it comes back to me, I test it out, I write down my likes and dislikes, we tweak it again, we add ingredients that I want, because I want to keep it as clean as possible, use skincare ingredients. So we tweak it till we get to that perfect formulation. So it's definitely a long, tedious process, but also keeping it very transparent. If anyone's looking to start a beauty brand, it's nowhere close to a year or 2 years, like how a lot of beauty founders claim that they worked on a formula for that long. It does not take that long. Just a disclaimer, but it is definitely a tedious process.
Great. We're running out of.
You muted.
Oh, sorry. We're running out of time, but Mylan,
You muted again.
did you ask the question too? Was it directed to you? Or I think it says already answered. All right, let's move on to the next one. I think this one, when actively seeking out networking opportunities or collaborating with new stakeholders, have you found connecting with other women yields a more healthy business connection? I guess it applies to all. Maybe I can just give a brief answer, starting with Mylan, Kat, and Sasha.
If I'm understanding the question correctly, I love meeting women that are on this panel because one, I think you just get inspired from each other and you can share resources. I think you can get that with all entrepreneurs, but what's special about women is that like Sasha can speak authentically to her beauty product, right? Her beauty brand, and men can use beauty products too, but the majority is women. So to get her perspectives, and if there's any things from, if she wanted to test on me, if she wants to send any tests out or me to be her guinea pig, I'm happy to raise my hand and support her in that way and get the products too, because they're great. I've tried them. So yeah, I think networking with other women, and not only just networking, supporting them genuinely is so powerful.
Great, thank you. How about you, Kat?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I love networking with other women. I've never really compartmentalized the difference between working with men and women. I think with women, it's nice because there is so much like camaraderie. You know, we're talking business, but we might also happy hour. And it's really nice in that way. And we are, you know, I mean, it sounds like a stereotype, but we do get chatty and it's easy to think of each other in that way. I think with the men I work with, they're very, because of what I do, they're very grateful for the vision that I can give, you know, as a woman that's different, right? And so much of what marketing is actually geared towards women, even if it's a men's product. So, but it is a little more business. So I don't know what would healthy be though. I've always, they're good guys too. But it is just different. It's just, you know.
I guess it depends also on the line of business too, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
networking, the industry itself. And so, like, for example, I was in a startup, wireless technology startup company as an executive for 8 years, and where 90% are men. So what do
Yeah.
you do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I had to learn the language. I had to learn how they do business and, you know, talk the talk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
so it
is
was
something that I'll say I'll notice with men. There's a little more of like the puffing up of feathers, you know, like a little more of that. Whereas with women, it seems always to be very organic and friendly. So, but that's just my experience. Oh, Cathlyn, you're on mute.
Does Jasmine's like to answer this question?
Oh no, I think that's just a.
Okay, and then did Sasha answer the question, or everybody answered it?
We'll take Sasha's answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we ran out of time, but you know, I hope that this webinar was very informative.
I think you muted again.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was just pressing the bars and all that. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say that you know, I really enjoyed this having all these three amazing ladies during this panel discussion, and I really thank you so much for your time as well. And but before I go and before I pass the button back to our host, I just, you know, want to tell the audience that based on what everybody shared, there's a very important one important thing, and a quote that I remember from an author named Napoleon Hill. It says, "Whatever the mind of a man or woman can conceive and believe, it can achieve." So that means that everything starts also with an idea or thoughts, but when mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire, you will most certainly achieve it. That's what I wanted to share with you. And that was, I guess, the basis of everybody's success in today's discussion. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and I will pass it on to Jasmine.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Choi, for that amazing quote. And thank you to our panelists for sharing all of your information. It was very valuable to hear, especially as someone who's just getting started, wanting to find out what I want to do. And I'm pretty sure it's the same for all of our attendees tonight. So before you go, attendees, please share your thoughts on how we can improve and get ready for you for next time for our next webinar. You can scan the QR code or visit bit.ly/E4Women-2. That'll just help us get to know what works best for you, what you want to know, and how we can better help you in your next steps. Isabel?
And also, don't forget to like us on social media to know when our next webinar will be, and visit acmasocal.org to receive our monthly newsletters. We hope the knowledge you gained from today helps launch your 2021 into a great year of growth. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.